do that all over again.
It's like The Office when he gets 2 chances to answer the phone.
Yeah. Well, welcome in, friendos. How you doing? It is May 25th. It's your boy, Mike Stella.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
This is Greg.
Greg. Mm-hmm.
He'll be
He's been on a diet. He's lost a lot
coming
of weight.
into shape soon. Yeah, he keeps running. How you doing, Mike?
Doing better than I deserve.
The
Yourself?
better than you deserve. Yeah, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
Doing well. Weather's nice. I drove my Jeep today with the top down.
I saw that.
Yeah, not quite warm enough to have the doors off, but that's coming. Yeah,
And you probably have to check to make sure it doesn't rain.
Yeah, it won't rain. Not today. Not for a few days, actually.
I know. It's supposed to be really nice this weekend.
Yep.
So you have to get out golfing then with us.
No, I traded in my clubs for a boat.
That's
We're
right.
fishing.
Are you going? You got to get out this weekend.
I'm probably
going
going
to
to go tonight.
Are you?
Yep. Yeah, me and Andy Rubel.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, trying to figure out which lake to go to.
Okay.
But, yeah.
A lot of good lakes around here.
Yeah, there should be enough. It's just a matter of deciding which lake we want to go to and what we want to fish for, how serious we want to be about stuff. But, yeah.
What time do you think you'll be back?
I don't know.
But I've noticed the mosquitoes are just horrible around 8 o'clock.
Yeah, they're bad in my yard too.
Yeah. Come on, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
Well, you
he's
can
not
fill
here.
in for Tizer until he comes back.
Yeah.
I'm not coming on. I was just going to tell you awesome job.
Oh, thanks. Well, why don't you do that on so everybody can hear it on the internet? Yeah.
I want everybody on the internet to know that this guy crushed it Sunday.
Thank you. I
great.
appreciate that. Thanks.
Except for that one guy I saw kind of chewing you out afterward. No, I'm kidding.
There is a story
No,
there.
yeah,
but
well, there
that's
might
not, That's not for radio.
Tough act to follow because he's going to be preaching this Sunday.
What
I'm
are we
just
on?
going to do a
Hope?
lot of review of
Holiness.
last weekend. Yeah, holiness.
Now, what's the difference between holiness and godliness? Can you break that down for us real quick?
Oh, I got to figure that out by Sunday. Ben actually kind of hit it a couple weeks ago when he did the first part of 1 Peter, whatever, the first chapter where he did like all the ingredients. How many were there? Like 8? Mm-hmm. He basically preached half of this sermon, so I got to do something different.
There we go.
Yeah. What are you guys talking about?
We were going to talk about a little tribute to Tim Keller. And just kind of like
You gave a nice hat tip to him on Sunday.
Yeah. Well, this area of suffering and pain, I mean, really that book, I don't know if you read it, Walking with God Through Pain and Suffering is... It is... If I'd recommend any of that book and then his first one, which was...
Reason for God?
Yeah, Reason for God.
Yeah, that's the one that
I
read and did a small group study through it.
If I would recommend any of those are the two for sure. I mean, they're all... I mean, he's very talented. But those two are... they are phenomenal.
The Reason for God had a video series that he did that he hosted maybe 8 or 10 people from New York that were all unbelievers. And he walked through the sections of the book with them and just had the conversations and walked through what he sees. It was fascinating.
Yeah.
And pretty cool.
He's one of those guys where most of the time he was probably the smartest person in the room, but he didn't have to tell you that. He didn't have to act that way. At least the vibe I got from him was, when I've seen him in interviews and just, he never gave off that aura that he was, I think Francis Chan's a lot like that too, where he's super talented, but he doesn't come across that way. And I really appreciate that about Keller. It just reminds me that we're all getting older. All these guys that they're all dying.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not the young ones anymore, huh?
No, because didn't you just say Andy Stanley's dad passed?
Yep. Charles Stanley died a couple weeks ago.
No.
I don't know a ton about Charles Stanley. I catch him every once in a while at 2 o'clock in the morning because he'd be on the TV. But I'm a huge fan of his son, Andy. But
Because of his name, right?
that,
Yeah.
and also just because he's a really good preacher.
Yeah.
And I like his church down in Alpharetta. I've been there a handful of times. It's actually the church that Ben's daughter, Kala, and son-in-law, Dylan, and their 2 kids are going to. They have a real attentive to special needs, which is one of Kala's little girls needs a little attention. She's not, she just has some health issues that really need to be looked over. But just even the vibe of their church, really cool. And one of the songs that Northridgers really love came out of North Point. That's Death Was Arrested.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
Seth Condry. He's from North Point. So, yeah.
Well, it's one of those churches that I've heard where it's obviously a large church, but yet it's not a spectator necessarily church where people do feel like they're part of a community.
Yep.
And, it's not, you just show up and watch this show in front of you every week where people actually feel like they're part of a church.
Yeah,
And that's always hard when you have a big church.
Their sermons are really inclusive that way. The spaces that they create around the building, it feels like a big church, but it doesn't feel like one. I know it sounds dumb, but the lower ceilings, tighter. It feels like tighter spaces. They just do a really good job of creating environments for the right thing. I mean, even their youth area, it's called the Attic. It's so cool. Yeah. I was super jealous when I walked, because that was during the time when I was a youth pastor. I walked into there. I was like, oh, that's so cool.
Do they still have dingy old couches in there?
They had a bunch of couches.
I think that's like a prerequisite for
exactly.
any youth space.
Yep, we just got 2 more.
No matter how much money you have, dingy couches go to the youth room.
They had booth, cafe booths along the outside.
Oh, like old diner stuff?
Yeah, so
Oh, cool.
cool. They had a little balcony up at the top where they had some games like foosball and ping pong up there. But then just this huge open space in the middle where there are some couches, there's some love sack, bean bags, and there's a little kitchen in the back.
Malt maker?
I don't know. I didn't see that.
Oh, you would have had me then.
Yeah. Or the popcorn maker, which is always a good idea in theory.
No.
But then you have to clean it. And once you clean it once, it's like, that's enough.
Right.
Or clean up after. We just had popcorn all over the building for the Wednesday night finale thing. We gave it to the Treasure Quest kids, and they loved it. I mean, they had all the seasonings and toppings and stuff. And then in the youth group stuff, one of the games was like a popcorn toss.
Yeah.
Yeah. It took like literally 25 Zamboni passes with that big vacuum to get it cleaned up. And still the next day, Kevin, or a couple of days later, Kevin was like, yeah, I noticed there's popcorn. I'm like, really? Because we vacuumed for like 40 minutes on Wednesday night. But
It's like popcorn and glitter. It's impossible to get completely cleaned up.
Yeah, and then the other extra credit one is candle wax from a Christmas Eve candlelight
sure.
service.
do we do candles here?
We don't, because I did it one year. Ben and Terry were hesitant, but I talked them into doing it. And then the next week, Ben and Terry and myself spent a good couple hours
Paper bag and iron. Yeah.
To get all the wax up.
I've been there.
Yep. So they're like, yeah, we're not doing that again.
Universal church problems.
Yeah.
It's a cool effect. I grew up
Yeah.
in a Lutheran church doing that.
Silent night, close the service
Yeah.
with candles.
100%. I remember doing that.
Gotta
at the
keep them
Catholic
vertical
church.
though. Once
Yeah.
they turn, then
Yeah, I
It's
looked
over.
into getting,
they have like wax catchers.
they have a little ring that you put around and it catches, but that didn't even work. Yeah, because you got kids in there and they're like enamored by the whatever. But I looked into getting like battery powered little candles, but
Well, now cell phones. Do the
Ah.
lights. Everybody turn the lights on. That's come. Yeah.
yeah. Well, we were at the Twins game.
File that one away.
We were at the
for-
Twins
for
game the other
Christmas.
day, and there was this reasonable amount of intro for one pitcher.
Yeah.
And the lights went out. There was this video. People were holding their cell phone lights up, and then he proceeded to go walk the bases loaded.
Who is this?
That was Jorge Lopez.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And up until then, I was dogging him to Mike when he came up. I'm like, this guy's terrible. He had an under 3 ERA, mid twos batting average against, but yeah, he just coughed it up And then the next guy came in and he walked a run in, and then the next guy came in after that and he gave up a hit to.
Yeah.
We lost the lead at that point. It was annoying.
I feel like if you're coming in with intro music and they're dimming the lights and
It's like a 2-minute long intro video
yeah,
too.
it was like a U2 concert where you
Right.
got the lights going
was
here.
cool.
It's a cell phone. It's like, come on, at least strike the guy out. Like you can't walk. Then I could do that.
Just throw the ball over the plate. I mean, we had a 3-run lead. You just got to throw strikes. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Greg's little leaguers that night. His pitchers couldn't throw strikes, and then they lost them exactly the same
Yeah.
thing. Lost them the lead.
Yeah.
Future Twins pitchers.
Yeah,
For Greg, though, I told it was on the coaching.
yeah.
I think it might have been on the coaching, but not necessarily on Greg.
Well,
Is he not? He's not the pitching coach.
No,
you have to take it all if you're
I know he's the first
team
base
loss,
coach.
team win.
First base coach. I know.
There's no coaching if nobody gets on first.
Were you going to read something about Keller?
I got some quotes
We-
for
Do
Keller.
you have some
We
quotes?
kind of
Yeah.
went all
We did,
around.
well, that's just
We did.
My lunch is in the microwave. I was just
okay.
coming to say hi. I didn't realize you were
Don't
on
feel
the air.
don't feel obligated to stay.
I'll stay
but
for the quote and then I'll go eat my
Well, I got a whole bunch of them.
leftovers.
Yeah, I got a whole bunch of them. And fitting, the first one is all death can do now do to Christians is to make their lives infinitely better.
Ooh.
And he's experiencing that right now, Tim Keller.
Mhm.
You know what he died of?
He had pancreatic cancer, I
Yeah.
think, for a number of years, 2 or 3 years.
Really?
I mean,
he lasted that long?
He lasted a long
Because it
longer.
usually goes pretty quick. I mean, we
Yeah.
had somebody here at Northridge that had pancreatic cancer. I think from the time he found out to the time he actually passed away, it was less than a year.
Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah, Mr. Krebs.
Tim Krebs, another wonderful man.
Another just monster of
Yeah, that was a
a
hard
person.
loss.
Yeah.
No, Keller had cancer before too, like early.
Different cancer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like a thyroid cancer. Yeah,
Wow.
a number of years ago, and so to even last
You
that
know
longer,
how old he was?
70s.
74?
Yeah, something like that.
73?
70s for sure.
Yeah, early 70s.
And he was retired though. He was no longer a pastor of that church in
Right.
New York.
They had transitioned, and I think the thing that's just you're not finding this as much anymore is, he made everybody upset, which means he's probably onto something. He had the right upset with them, he had the left upset with them.
Kim Kringan's calling me right
Oh.
now.
Oh,
Do I
Well,
answer it on
pick
the
up.
air?
Yes,
Yeah.
pick it up. Put it on the.
put on speaker.
Hello? Hey, Kim, I'm on the podcast with Andy right
Live.
now. Live, but you're not on speakerphone.
He'll never come on. This is the way to get him on.
I'm surprised he hasn't hung up yet. If you don't know Kim Kringan, he's the other Asian guy that goes to Northridge here. He used to call
Can
himself.
I give you a call in like 10 minutes? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
He used to, when he first started coming here, he used to call himself Fat Andy, which was never true because he's never been fat. And over the last 5 or 6 years, he's even gotten in better shape.
Yeah,
But, there's only a few Korean guys around here.
the
so.
other Asian.
He says hi to both of you.
Oh.
Anyang.
Yeah, he didn't call us though, did he? No.
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 No, he went
He
over
goes,
our
yeah,
heads.
he goes right.
Yep, right to the. The central basis of Christian assurance is not how much our hearts are set on God, but how unshakably His heart is set on us. That was another big Tim Keller quote.
One of my favorites of his, I don't know if it's on there, is like, you don't know Jesus is all you need until Jesus is all you have. But one of the things I just so appreciate, like I said, he upset at the left, he upset at the right. And sometimes you can kind of get into the muddled middle where you then are not, you don't have strong positions on anything. You're just kind of like, and that wasn't his case though. Like he still had strong convictions in theology, but he was still able to not allow that to push him to one extreme or the other. And that's just harder and harder in our culture when, we want everything to be separated, right? It's a dichotomy. It's either this or that. And I appreciated his demeanor and his approach to stay convicted yet not be pushed to one extreme or the other. It's difficult. It's difficult to do.
Here's one that's interesting is I think a lot of times when people, we talked about mostly depression, anxiety last week. I think a lot of people who struggle with anxiety, it's this false picture of a future that hasn't happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worrying about something in the future. And a lot of that can oftentimes be exacerbated by lies or false narratives.
Mm.
He says, Satan doesn't control us with fang marks on the flesh, but lies in the heart. Our best defense in the fight against his lies is not the production of incantations, but the rehearsal of truth.
Mm.
I just think that's a powerful thing to speak. Kind of piggyback on what you were saying last week is when you're talking about drawing closer to each other, drawing closer to God, and it's going to be his truth is one of those vehicles to draw closer to him, and it's also going to be battling those lies that oftentimes get your brain and your mind off track, which then pulls your heart kind of down the canyon as well.
Yeah. All right, is your lunch getting cold? Are we keeping you?
I'll do another 30 seconds on it.
What do you have today for lunch, by the way?
Leftover steak and potatoes and zucchini.
Nice.
A little vanilla yogurt to top it off. Not at the same time.
You look like you have a pretty strict diet, so I'm guessing everything.
It's whatever the leftovers are. Cheap. There's some leftovers that are much better than others, though.
Here's an interesting one. Only if your God can outrage and challenge you will you know that you worship the real God and not a figment of your imagination.
Oof.
That's big, and there's more. But that's already big. Only if your God can outrage and challenge you will you know that you worship the real God and not a figment of your imagination. If your God never disagrees with you, you might just be worshiping an idealized version of yourself. That's pretty. It's convicting, but it's also very.
Yeah.
It's pretty. It's a deep. You want to unpack that, Mike?
Well, it kind of goes.
I'm out. See you guys. Lunch is ready.
Well, it kind of goes with we were kicking around ideas like what we should talk about. And I said we should have a podcast on what theologies or what theologies do you believe but you don't like.
Yeah.
You should have those. I think. Like, listen, this is what the Bible says, and I agree with it. And I believe it because this is what God says. But I don't necessarily like it. I mean, God doesn't call us to like things; He calls us to obedience, right?
Yeah, there's some of that this weekend in the message.
Really?
Yeah, just
That's
looking
good.
at the but there's both because okay, I'm going to process out loud now for 30 seconds.
You get the pre-sermon.
With holiness, like on one hand, there's been a lot of damage done by like the legalistic church that it's all about the ought. Like, I ought to do this. I have to do this. And the truth of holiness is that like it's more about like the heart. It's about wanting. It's like I've got to do this, not because I ought to, but because I want to. And that's like, if you've grown up in legalism, that's like revolutionary and really important. But 2 Peter straight up says, like, we ought to live holy. Like, he uses that word. So it's there too. Right. It is an ought thing.
Is it be holy as I am holy?
That's in 1 Peter.
That's in 1 Peter. Okay.
Yeah, he's like, be holy.
Right.
As obedient children is the term that he uses in 1 Peter. So there is an aspect of that where it's like, it's a straight up obedience thing. Like, you ought to do it and you should do it. But it's also more than that. So I'm going to try to preach both. And it's one of those things like we were talking about at lunch last week. Like, one of the challenging things with like preaching when you're communicating to a lot of people from a lot of different places is like, to some people, the message they need to hear is this, and to others, what they need to hear is something different. And both are biblical and true. And like to our personalities or our experiences, like some things we feel more comfortable with, or on the other, more uncomfortable with. Right. Of like, this is what it says, and I don't really like it, but I mean, it just says we ought to do it.
Do you, where would your assessment of our culture now, do you think it's more, we struggle with doing things we don't like, or we struggle more on the legalism side? You know what I'm saying?
When you say culture, like,
just, I don't know.
In general, church culture?
Maybe church. We'll just
Western church,
yeah,
Midwest church.
Yeah, just Northridge specifically. No, just saying.
The staff.
What do you think Andy struggles with the most here? No, it's a broad
legalism.
question.
I'll be honest, it's legalism.
Yeah.
You know, kind of that ought to. But I think, not. I don't know if current church withstanding the culture, definitely I think is more legalism, but that the goalposts are always moving.
Yeah.
And so it's just always this game where you have to figure out where your tribe is, in that, where the goalposts are for your tribe, because you want to fit in with that group. And I think that's a little bit of church culture too, not necessarily the legalism, because the goalposts, I think from a spiritual standpoint, they're not moving unless you have somebody coming in and giving all sorts of weird interpretations of things. But I think culturally, just at a relational level, sometimes those goalposts are moving because, we age, we change, and it's okay. But sometimes we don't give those allowances to other people or even ourselves. And so we're always in this constant trying to figure out the DTR. Where are we at? Where are we at with you? Where am I at with myself? Where am I at with God? And the realization is probably we're changing more than everybody else around us. Or we're experiencing those changes in an exaggerated way because they're coming from within, not from the outside. And then you're dealing with all the outside influences too. But I think for myself, it's probably more the legalism thing. Just because I have a real strong sense of, needing to do. And, Greg, I'm going to not throw him under the bus, but in our text message about what we're going to talk about today, he said something about grace and versus works. And he believes in grace, but he always feels like there's that innate thing in him that feels like he needs to do stuff, and I feel like, I have a similar motivation inside me, even though I don't think that comes from God. In the sense of, grace through faith. In the sense of like social credit, I even feel that even more. But and I like doing things for people, so that's a weird combo.
Yeah,
I think like how do I say this carefully? Because I have friends and loved ones that are highly invested at some of the places that are in my mind that are sparking what I'm going to say, but I don't want to throw them under the bus. There can be like a very real sense in which like more the self-help type of a church that can just diminish right from wrong lines of, or it's not pure relativism, but it's more about just like do the best you can. I think grace is behind that, like why they would kind of structure things that way, but it can kind of make you a little bit squishy, on stuff. Sorry, you're going to say something.
No, agreeing with you. I mean, I think if anything, it's just that pendulum, right? If you go way far over, then you overreact to the other way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the self-help thing is like looking at other churches' sermons and stuff like that. A lot of it feels like self-help. And
the difference, and man, I'm gonna, Lord help me, try to articulate this Sunday. Like,
it's tough.
Is like it is something that we ought to do, but the reason we ought to do it isn't because we're going to gain God's approval or we're going to achieve something, whether it's self-imposed or expectations of others or the reason is because we come from a place of security and acceptance that like there's a verse in Hebrews 10:14, that's probably going to be one of the main parts of the sermon. Like, it talks about how Christ was his sacrifice once for all, makes us, puts us in a place, the term is perfect, but it's the same word that's translated as holy. Like, it makes us holy for all those who are being made holy. And there's two tenses of that same word, and it's like a positional thing of established, kind of like justification of like our standing before God is secure and we are perfect. From 2 Corinthians 1, we have the righteousness of Christ, that's ours. And we're in the process of being made perfect, of being sanctified and transformed. And so that transformation process isn't to gain approval. It's not about an achievement, but in the best sense, it should be a heart motivation because of who we are and what he's done for us. Those are the things that we long for, not to check the boxes, but out of affection and love for him.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing to want to make your Heavenly Father happy, right?
No.
I don't think it is. I don't think, as kids, we all have parents. We want our parents to be happy with us. It's not a bad thing to I want my, not that he's not. I mean, you're
That's
saved.
Worship, right?
Right.
Romans 12.
Yeah.
Present yourselves as living sacrifice. This is your spiritual act of worship.
Right. So it's not a bad thing. And I think the other thing too, maybe, that gets lost is, the Israelites saw the law as an absolute blessing. Like, now we know what our God wants from us, Now we know how to relate to our God. It was never seen as like, God's trying to hold us down as a burden. I mean, for sure the 10 Commandments, they were excited to get those. Maybe by they got to law 615 or something, Leviticus, they got a little like, okay.
A little exasperated.
I don't know. But there's no question that there was joy in knowing how they can now relate to their Father.
Yeah.
So.
I'm going to go get
Someone's
lunch.
eating your lunch. I can hear it.
I can hear it. Yeah, they're like,
Greg is in there.
Margaret, I didn't mean to crash the party.
No,
Thanks for
fine.
letting me stop
That's
in.
Little preview for Sunday.
See y'all later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll see if anything like that is on Sunday.
Thanks, Paul.
Good to see you, man.
Another quote: "The glory of God is available to you in the church in a way it's not available to you anywhere else. There is no more important means of discipleship than deep involvement in the life of the church."
That's a really good quote because that goes counter to what we are so individualistic here.
Yeah.
And it's all about my personal walk with Jesus. We don't see enough, I should say. We don't see enough our faith as part of the community of believers. Like, and when our faith struggles, it should affect the community as well. And so that's a really, I think, oh man, that's really good because we think so much is just my personal relationship with Jesus, and it's like, yeah, that's important. We will all stand before God one day and give an account, but it's within the context of the body of Christ.
Yep. I've said this, in worship moments, but there's something that happens when we're all together that cannot happen when you're by yourself. And on the flip side, there's stuff that can only happen when you're in your closet, prayer closet, like Jesus talked about, go in your closet, that can only happen there, that cannot happen in a large group. And so I think you need to experience both of those times on a regular basis. But in terms of discipleship, deep involvement in the life of the church, I'm not saying you got to volunteer for every single thing, but just being involved in the life of the church, relationally, activity-wise, worship together, small group, all of those things. I can promise you, you will not be disappointed if you pour all that you have into those things. If you're disappointed, come back and get your money back from me.
No, and I tell you what, just being involved in people's lives, just being aware of what's going on, right? is, I mean, this is just a dumb example, but I don't know why this meant so much to me, and hopefully she's listening. Stephanie Uchman, is that how you say it? Is that right?
Yep.
So a number of months ago, I herniated a disc in my back, and I was in a lot of pain. And I never said anything to her, but I mean, you could tell I was walking around, I just looked terrible. And she came up to me, and
I think you were whining about it on the podcast.
Probably was. I was whining about it all the time, you know. Well, she gave me, there he is. She gave me like something to use as far as with stretching, and look at this guy.
What's up?
And what was so kind of her.
He's saying go to the middle.
No, it was just so kind of her because she blessed me, and yeah, of course I'm not gonna turn down your pizza that you're offering. It's very nice.
I will.
Am I gonna end up in the hospital?
Maybe.
You want to sit here? You don't want to be in the middle? Anyway, Stephanie really blessed me, and it was just being involved, just like being aware. And she said, "Hey, try this out," and you know. I mean, and that really meant a lot. And to your point, like if you just encourage somebody, you just have to be aware around people. They have to know what's going on with their lives.
Yeah.
You know?
You could have a mic holder if you put this in there.
Oh, look at that.
Carry on.
You got to get that on camera.
Continue.
I believe it's on camera. Yeah.
That's my paper
Oh,
towel.
wow.
We're
really
way behind.
What?
Way behind on camera.
We already jumped into
And
the.
we're live. Oh.
Yeah, we already talked about we're getting into Tim Keller quotes.
Yeah.
Came too soon, huh? I do not like Tim Keller. I'm just joking.
No, fine.
I'm
Not
just
for
kidding.
everybody.
That's a
I'm
quote.
kidding.
Yeah.
I don't. Is that a quote?
I actually, to be honest with you, I have not read any of his books.
Yeah.
The only thing I have
Because everyone
experienced
says
with,
you have to read this. And that's a guarantee.
don't
that I
ever
will
tell
not.
Greg he has to do something because he will be a
What's that called?
child about it. And
Oppositional defiance.
Right.
Is that what you have?
yeah, don't go to the next Twins game with us, Greg.
Nice
Yeah.
about it. Hey, I really wanted to. That was not a.
Yeah, let's
defiant.
talk about how Greg
That's not a defiant thing.
is so dedicated to his team. I appreciate you. He was dedicated to his boys.
My child.
Yep. I remember the moment when he told me Asher was wanting to play baseball. It was like a little tear came out of his corner of
Yeah.
his eye.
He
was
made the
so
right choice.
excited.
I know. I did. I don't need your validation.
Especially
I know.
because they lost, too. The Twins lost.
You guys were almost forcing me to go watch the Giants win. That's not kind at all.
The only thing I have experience with Tim Keller is he wrote this church growth. Remember that thing? Did you read that years ago? This huge packet on church growth and what it should look like at 1 to 200 people, 2 to 400 people, 5 to 600, and how to kind of navigate through each of those stages of growth as a church. And we really hit that hard in our overseer meetings in the wintertime that we do, and for like 2 or 3 years straight. This might have been right before. You don't remember reading any of that stuff?
Was that before Greg?
I don't get invited to those things anyway, so that's just you exclusive.
No, I thought we brought it into
folks. No,
We never brought it into staff meeting at all. Okay,
it's just the upper level
upper level
guys.
I'm a throw in. Yeah.
They need someone to play guitar.
That's probably true. There's nobody on the overseer. Actually, John could probably lead worship. Schrupp.
John
Oh, yeah.
Schrupp?
Yep. He plays
piano.
little guitar, plays
I didn't
piano.
know. I was thinking guitar. I'm like, I've never seen him play guitar, and it threw me off. But yeah,
Yeah,
he's
if you put a
piano.
guitar in his hand,
I'm sure he could.
He could play. He could play a lot of worship songs.
He can play shortstop, too.
Is that what he does for softball?
Yeah. He's got a good arm. Seriously.
Is it really?
Yeah.
John?
He's good. Yeah.
Sweet.
Here's another quote. This one actually kind of hits me hard because I had a lot of years of this. To say, quote, I know God forgives me, but I can't forgive myself, unquote, means you've failed an idol whose approval is more important than God's.
Wow.
That hurts my head. What? Say it again.
To say I know God forgives me, but I can't forgive myself means you've failed an idol whose approval is more important than God's. And I think idol, you could replace that with person, people. I don't know if that's because I think when I was dealing with struggling to forgive myself for certain things, it was really just, I felt like it was just me. And I was carrying that around and not imposing that or feeling like I was living up to somebody else's standard other than myself. But it's, I don't know, I could see how we try to live up to other people's standards and we seek their approval more than we seek God's. But something I was talking to my brother the other day, and I thought it was pretty cool because he said, he been working in this restaurant as a bartender and server in Savannah for the last 6 months now. It's really good. But he's, I was asking about if he has plans of trying to get a different job or what moves is he making right now, basically. And he said, yeah, I've really changed my mindset about this particular job because he used to work in the restaurant business for years and he finally got to the point where he hated it so much and he didn't want to work in the restaurant business, but after 6 months of not being able to get a job, I gently encouraged him, well, you might need to go back into the restaurant business because it's your most marketable skill.
Yeah.
And just kind of get some traction under your feet so you can kind of work on something, on the side to get out of there. But he said, I know my identity is not a bartender. And I thought, that's really cool that he would recognize, my identity is not what I do. I'm like, oh, that's really good. I'm like, that goes the same for me. He goes, well, your job's kind of different. We kind of had a little discussion about but still, my identity is not a guitar player or
Professional musician.
a worship pastor. My identity's, if my identity is wrapped up in that, what happens when that goes away? So Keller's quote is, if you make work your identity and you succeed, it'll go to your head. If you fail, it'll go to your heart. Oh. I thought that was really good. Thoughts?
We've all been there.
That's good.
Well,
yeah,
we've all been there. I mean, as much as you don't want to make something your identity, or don't want to say, if I don't have this, I'll still be fine. Well, we've all been there where we realize maybe we're not as strong as we think we are in those areas. Yeah. No, I don't recommend you read Reason for God. I don't recommend you read that one, Greg.
I won't.
I don't recommend you read Prodigal God or Walking with God Through Pain and Suffering. Those are the three I would not recommend you read. So, yeah.
I won't.
He had a winsomeness about him. He had a gentleness about him. He didn't have to yell and scream. He never. I mean, in the context of which he ministered in, was very intelligent. And people, at least book intelligence or financial intelligence in Manhattan is where he was, and but he didn't come at it with a fiery approach. He came at it with a real gentle, winsome attitude, and yet, like I said before, he had strong convictions.
Define winsome. What do you mean?
I think he just had this ability to you were naturally attracted to when people would talk about him, or you can hear it when you hear him preach. There's just this real gentleness, this real, he's not off-putting, but he's not wishy-washy. Like, he's not like, I'm just going to say what I think people want me to say. And we all know that. You've been around. It's like, okay, this guy's just playing to his crowd. you know.
I think that's what I was getting at last night. I texted because I don't read his books and stuff, but what I appreciated about him is like he has the ability to equally upset your very conservative Christians or your very liberal Christians, and they all think he's not conservative enough or not liberal enough, or too conservative, too liberal. So to me, it's like you're probably doing something right.
Yeah, Mike said that. You're on. He's
Yeah.
probably onto something there. Yeah.
I
But he didn't do it in an obnoxious way, though.
right. But like what to your
Yeah.
point, the winsome thing. I mean, he seems strangely like approachable, relatable. Even though my only interaction with him, not even in his books, is just like social media presence or seeing him in an interview or speaking or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
You've said that about Andy. I've only maybe read one Andy Stanley book, and I don't know if I've ever even heard maybe a couple of his sermons, but you've said that about Andy Stanley in the same way. Right, Andy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've read a lot of his books and heard a lot of his sermons.
Would you say Erwin McManus is kind of like that too?
No, he's a different person.
He's a totally different breed.
I think he's still winsome, and I would hope that he's approachable, but he's way more abstract
Okay.
than
he's artsy.
either Keller or Stanley.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like why I like having him a part of my repertoire of listening to sermons, because sometimes you need concrete. Sometimes it's fun to just kind of explore ideas, and Erwin does a great job of just kind of bringing you on a journey of exploration.
You know, of those three guys, and I don't know why those three, but what the first thing I thought of is they're all three uniquely like positive, or like they take an encouraging angle,
Right.
if you hear them. And I don't think it's just for the sake of being encouraging. I think they just look for the best, in people, whether they're interacting with other people, but just the take is more of like how generalization is like how would Jesus view this person, or how would Jesus approach this? And I mean, generally from those guys, that's what I get. I know a lot of they're polarizing. Maybe not Keller as much as the other two, but I don't know. I heard Keller referred to a few years ago as the Protestant Pope.
Yeah, I almost
Yeah.
said that on Sunday just to make you laugh.
Yeah, I would have laughed.
I know.
I knew your joke was coming up because I heard it first service, and I was sitting in church second service, the Packer joke, and I was like, okay, what kind of laugh am I going to give this? Should I be obnoxiously loud? But then people will know that's fake.
Should have
'cause
went
that's
Fred
not-
on
He
me.
doesn't laugh out loud that
I
much.
know.
I did. I gave it a chuckle.
See, I told the joke to Julie, and she's like, "No one's gonna get that joke. It's only funny for you."
No, if you got some good.
She's
I laughed on my end.
She goes, "Only 3 people are gonna get that." I'm like, "No, I think Greg and Andy will get
I didn't
it."
hear
And Greg,
9
and
a.m.
who's the third?
I didn't hear 9 a.m.
yeah.
I
Like
thought,
two people might get it.
Right, but
But
here's
at
the
10:30,
thing.
there was a good little.
Oh, was there?
Yeah.
I couldn't hear anything on.
But here's the thing. I don't know. Not that it matters. Spent a lot of hours. A lot of hours putting together a message. If I slip in a joke just for myself, that's my
That's
pay.
all
That's
I ever- that's all the
come
joke
on,
should
that's
ever
it.
be.
I should be able to get one joke in
If
for
you
myself.
think it's funny, then it's genuine. And
Right,
if other
exactly.
people don't, whatever.
And speaking of genuine, I think the positive kind of angle you're talking about those three guys, I think it comes out of who they are, and because I think the same thing about Ben. Ben is overly positive on the side of when he preaches, he's always coming at it from kind of the positive angle and trying to encourage people in a positive direction, and it's because of who he is. He is one of the most optimistic, positive-minded people, even in the midst of things are a mess. And I find myself, I don't know if you guys do, but you gravitate, and especially in times of crisis, sometimes you gravitate to those people because you need something uplifting. You need something to get your mind out of, whatever basement or whatever, lies or whatever negativity you're caught in. And so it's helpful to have those people around. Tolerance.
Well, it's funny you say that. To follow up on that point on Ben, it's interesting because when we started coming here, we just started, we just showed up and we'll check out this church, and we started coming for a couple weeks, maybe 1 or 2 weeks, and Julie said about Ben, she goes, he's either one of the most positive, shepherding, like heart of a pastor guy I've ever met, or he's a total fraud. And I said, well, let's keep going until we find out which one it is. Yeah.
It's totally the first. The first
10 years later, I think he's proven that he's not a fraud.
Yeah.
So.
You can't keep that up for the.
Right.
People have asked that. Like, is like newer?
Is he really
like,
that way?
Is he
Yeah,
really
he's that way.
like positive and like optimistic, encouraging? I'm like, yeah.
And he's the same.
He really.
I mean,
is.
everybody has their preaching voice. You have your preaching voice. Greg has your preaching voice. Paul has his preaching voice. Brax has his preaching voice. But Ben is really, that's who he is everywhere. Mm-hmm. He's that way in the hallway. He's that way in his office with just one-on-one. He's that way up front.
I asked him, I said, in years of ministry, how have you changed? He goes, I just cry more now. That's all. It's like his biggest
true.
change.
You can see his eyes well up.
He's like, I just cry more now.
That happens when we get older. I
You
remember
get older. For me, it was like as soon as I had a daughter. I don't know what it was, but it's just like I never ever cried, like never. But then I don't know. It's weird. It pulls out a different.
you're getting older when you start crying at commercials. That's what my dad said.
Or you're digging the music at Cub Foods. Like, they're killing it here.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we got Journey going. Sweet.
The only person who dares wake up a king at 3 a.m. for a glass of water is a child. We have that kind of access.
Ooh,
I love that.
yeah, that's good.
He's got a lot of good quotes. Maybe you should read one of his books, Greg.
Why would I have to? When there's a list on the internet.
Here's another encouraging one, especially if you're kind of struggling faith. If you're falling off a cliff, strong faith in a weak branch is fatally inferior to weak faith in a strong branch. Salvation is not finally based on the strength of your faith, but on the object of your faith. That's why Jesus said faith is small as a mustard seed.
Right.
Can move mountains.
Man, this is, such.
What's funny is we take that verse and think like literally want to see a mountain move, and if I can't do it with my mind, I don't have enough faith.
Right.
But that's more the Jesus point. It's like it just takes a little.
Right.
A little bit of faith and a really big God is, it's about all you need.
Right.
That was a Louis Giglio sermon and wrapped up in one sentence. You're
Yeah.
small, God is not. No, you're small.
Yeah,
God is
not.
big and you are not. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
What do you think about?
He is I am, you are I am not.
What do you think of Louis Giglio?
I love Louis.
Yeah.
I've been listening.
What do you think of Louis Giglio's clothes?
He needs to give up the tuck in the front shirt with the big belt buckle look.
with the pooch?
Yeah.
I feel like he needs to dress a little more age appropriate.
He's hanging on. He's trying.
But I do like him.
Yeah.
And his teachings I've received from him. But
Yeah.
watching him, I'm like, he's got to be in his 60s.
Oh, yeah, mid.
Yeah.
He's getting up
I
there.
don't know. I started first listening to Louis back in the late 90s because he was the first one who started coming out and giving these incredible talks about worship. And somebody gave me a cassette tape, double-sided about, he was just talking about worship as a lifestyle. And I listened, I wore that tape out.
Was he mid-sentence, mid-point when it ends side one? You have to flip the cassette over.
That's funny.
Then
hilarious.
then I started listening to. He used to do a service down in Andy Stanley's church. It wasn't necessarily connected to, but they were using the building. It's
Are they in the same city?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Atlanta.
Alpharetta. Yeah, Alpharetta is part of the greater, sort of like Rogers is, or like Plymouth is part of the greater Minneapolis area.
Okay.
Passion City Church is actually downtown Atlanta, whereas North Point is in Alpharetta, which is a suburb north of downtown.
Okay. I wasn't sure where Louis was. I couldn't remember if he was
Yeah.
in the Atlanta area.
But he used to do a service called 722. It was for singles, Atlanta singles. And he would do a sermon, or he would do kind of a blurb once a year where he would talk about this service is not for anybody else but singles. I just feel like I have to say that. We're not carting anybody at the door or anything. But they had people driving up from Tallahassee, Florida.
Wow.
And they would have thousands of people there. Guaranteed not everybody was single. but all of his sermons were focused for singles. Like he would do a dating one. He would do, oh yeah. Anyway, I listened to them. I have probably 10 of his sermon series on CD. I think the only CD player I own is in my Jeep. But and I don't even know if it works anymore.
We just did a series that he put on called "Don't Give an Enemy a Seat at the Table."
Yeah, that's a new book that he came out with like a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
He has another new book coming out too.
Okay.
Yeah, don't give the enemy a seat at your table.
Mm-hmm. It's on Psalm 23. Yeah, it wasn't as good as Greg's sermon on Psalm 23, but it was up there.
Did I do that?
Yep.
Yeah.
You did that last summer.
It's forgettable for some of us.
You said dumb sheep.
Just kidding.
Dumb
Yeah,
shit.
sheep are dumb.
Let's see.
So, do you want to talk about your baseball? What happened? The boys they went into extra
We were in
innings.
semifinals
Give
of
us the
our
breakdown here.
conference tournament, and actually, kudos to the other team because we were up 11-5 or 11-4 going into the last inning, and they came back and they tied it, and then we played 2 innings, I think, of just tie baseball. Then we scored a run, and then they came in the bottom half of their inning and scored 2 runs. But yeah, I ended up going. We started at 3:30 and ended at 6.
Wow.
So like, that's like major league game. I mean, for
That's a long-
kids, we honestly, I don't think we've even gone more than 4 innings this year.
What are
There's
the normal games? Are they
Hour and a half. We
and about how many innings?
well, it's hour and a half or 6. I
Or
think.
6,
6 or
okay.
7. But
It's
we
timed.
never get there. Well, it's an hour and a half. Yeah, deadline. You can't start a new inning after an hour and a half. And then, so we were supposed to not start a new inning after 5, and then had a hard stop at 5:15 because there was like other youth organizations using those fields, and they all showed up, and we were about to stop. Honestly, if we would have had that like not starting a new inning after 5, we would have won because it would have reverted to the last full inning. Anyway, but it's a tournament, so you can't have a tie or anything. So we just kept playing, but the other people that were waiting for their later games were just like, no, just cool, keep playing. So it was kind of bizarre.
Do they
But-
do where they put a runner on the bases?
No,
No. Okay. So,
just start an inning fresh. Like yeah.
what happens if you run out of pitchers?
you just keep throwing someone out there, I guess.
Oh,
Yeah.
Is that what happened?
No, I mean we have one kid that's really good. He's our workhorse. Like, and he just shut him down.
Because there's a pitch count, right?
Yeah, I don't know if there's an actual like pitch count, but I don't think there's there might be an inning count, but he just threw too much. It's like
Sure.
they're kids, you can't
Right.
you got to
Yeah.
watch for their safety too. So, and he was getting tired. You could see he was starting to lose command and walking guys. But then, yeah, a couple of our guys struggled with strikes, and then the other team. I mean, they had some big key hits. We made some errors. It just kind of all collapsed on one inning. All those things happen one inning, but and I think there's a tendency when you're up really big late, you just kind of like relax, and so
Yeah, that's what
And we
happened to
played
the Twins
today.
the other day.
Exactly.
we play today.
You play tonight?
We play at play at 4:00 at Fernbrook in Maple Grove, wherever that is. I got to Google it.
Is this the end of this? See, it's got to be
It's his
wrapping
last
up.
game.
This
yeah.
is it.
Yeah, we're playing for third. So, yeah.
Do they have-
It's good.
Well, see, he's in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
He's in 8th grade?
Seventh.
7th grade. Do they have positions, or do they try to put kids in different positions?
We have a few kids that play around, but most of them are generally like got a few positions that they play.
Sure.
It's kind of unique, our team, because it's heritage. It's a school team, and we have some kids. They're 12. It's 6th through 8th grade, middle school, and so some kids are they've been playing several years now, and they're really good, and they're playing travel ball, and they kind of prioritize travel ball, so they'll miss some of our games because they have travel ball, or they'll leave early, which I get. That would have been me as a kid, And then we have some kids that, like Asher last year, never played baseball. We have like 3 or 4 this year that have never played before. So it's kind of interesting. You get a mix, but they're all
Sure.
really good kids, and they all support each other and help each other, and it's fun. It's a really good group. Last year and this year, it's fun. It's we play to win, like we try to win. You know, they play hard, they want to win, but also the ones that are better, I've noticed they're all really good with the ones that are just out to play. You know, so yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Well, good luck tonight.
Yeah, and then I'm going to the Saints game later too.
Are you really?
Yeah. Yeah, me and Asher are going with
Nice.
one of his buddies and his friend's dad. So
Well, Andy and I saw a loser of a game, and then Cameron went yesterday because for National Honor Society or something, they got to go to the day game,
yeah,
and the Twins dominated. It was
Yeah.
like what 7-1 or something.
should
She said the
buy
first
her season tickets.
She must have been watching because she said the first guy hit a home run, like first batter for the Twins.
Oh.
Hit a home run.
Edward Julian.
Is that who it was?
Yep.
So
He leads off against right-handers.
yeah, she was.
Until Royce Lewis comes back, then he's going to probably go back down to the minors.
I'm hoping they don't call him up before today.
No, they can't
They
because he
can't?
still has 60 days.
Oh, good. Then we should see him tonight.
Maybe. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
in St. Paul.
Saints, yeah.
Yeah. I
Because
think
he played
has,
last night. So I just saw an update that
He
he's
has
had
like
a steal.
five more days.
He's running. He had a stolen base last night. So
Have
anyway.
you been to the new Saints Stadium?
Yeah,
It's nice.
Nice.
It's really nice.
It's a really good place to watch a game too. Especially, I'm excited for Asher and his friend because for younger guys that are just kind of getting into the game, it's a great place. Now that it's AAA, it's like really good quality baseball, and you're that much closer to the
Yes.
field. You could hear
Yes.
guys talking. You could
feel
see
super close to the
You could
field.
see so much more. It's
Yeah.
and
So
it's
if you get that
it's a
weird
nice
Asian
stadium.
dude who is so corny.
The old Japanese guy that sings karaoke.
It bothers
I'm
me.
like the
Such a
fifth inning or whatever.
Such a stereotype.
It's
Hey, isn't it Asian Pacific American Month? Or
I have
something?
rarely laughed harder.
Along with mental health awareness
You guys
month.
have to share the month?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem right. Shouldn't just share it.
But they won't complain,
No, they won't.
right? I mean,
Oh, that's making me depressed.
it's a very stereotypical thing. It's like they're not going to cause a fuss if they have to share it. So that's why they just, hey, let's just squeeze this in with, on this month. And they won't complain.
They make a new holiday every day anyway.
I know.
So
Everything's a new month and a new
everything
day.
is
And I only care when it's National Ice Cream Day because Dairy Queen gives out free cones. That's about it.
just the cone.
It's not real ice cream, right? Actually, Bert's the one that told me that. I don't think Dairy Queen's real ice cream. I think
Really?
it's like not even dairy.
Oh,
I could be totally wrong. And
We're never
Maybe-
going to get that as a sponsor now. Way to
besmirching
go.
the name of Dairy Queen. Oh,
maybe
go.
Dean Peters is going
There
to
goes our Dairy Queen.
Oh, I
correct
miss
me.
Dean.
I know, I do
Oh,
too.
man.
Every once in a while, he'll comment on something on Facebook, a baseball thing, and to make fun of baseball. Every single time. If I share something baseball, he will go and make fun.
I miss Dean and
or
Chris.
say how boring it is. Yeah, I miss them too. They're great.
Well, I need to get going here soon, but Memorial Day plans? Andy's going on in the blessing.
Yeah, maybe I'll go. I don't know. I don't like going. Sort of like golf. I don't like going when the course is full.
You don't like going ever.
I don't like.
Be honest
Well,
when it
for
comes to
golf, but
okay?
when like,
Yeah.
I like when the lake is empty. There's nobody on there. You don't have to boat traffic, fight for fishing spots. All that's. So I imagine Memorial Day will be busy lake. So
Yeah.
it might just be. I wonder if is Chick-fil-A closed on Memorial Day? Because that's usually my Monday. Is to
That's
go
your
get
Monday.
Chick-fil-A.
I don't know. You might have to.
You've been on
Smash
one-
Burger.
You've been on one of those with me, haven't you? Monday
Maybe.
Chick-fil-A.
Oh
Then we
yeah,
went to
yeah.
the
You
cigar
know
shop.
that. That's right.
It was
Good
when
say.
you had a day off.
Yeah.
I was going to say that Andy's underlying goal every day is to just get to the cigar shop
It's not true.
or get home.
I haven't even been
Or
in the
get
cigar
home.
shop. Yeah, that might be true.
I was going to say to get home because I used to say that about my friend Brian, which is true. His underlying goal every day is just to go home. But you're not. I mean, you're out. You get it. I mean, you enjoy going home, but you get out and about.
Yeah,
That's why I picked the cigar shop.
fairly busy.
So
Yeah,
How about
go
you?
out to eat. That's your underlying goal is to get out to eat.
Maybe not because I like cooking at home.
We tried the new sushi place here.
I know. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, well, you were probably at baseball.
We did invite you.
Yeah, we did invite you.
Oh yeah,
Sunday night.
I know. We had
You
another
had a
school
heritage
thing.
thing.
You had a haircut or something.
We had a
I don't know.
heritage dinner family thing. with some other
This
families.
heritage
It was
school
good. No, it
gets
was fun.
away
It
of
was
a
good.
lot of our social events.
There were 3 other families we were kind of connected with. So
One more quote before you go, Mike.
Yep.
If you were or will be 100 times worse than you are currently, your sins would be no match for his mercy.
So maybe I should test that.
speaking
I think
of,
Paul has something to say about that, maybe.
this is what I deal with every day.
Romans 9.
Last night, I had the 3 kids. I was out just throwing some BP for Asher, and we ended up at the playground across the street, and we're walking home. And I don't know, randomly, I can't remember if it was Asher or Riley. One of them said, "Hey, Dad, remember when Evan was in 2nd grade and went on a field trip to the Children's Museum and came home with like rocks in his pocket, like he stole from the museum?" You stole from a museum? That's like, I go, I think that's like a federal offense. And he goes, this big old smile, I'm a felon. I'm a felon. And he's been saying that like last night and this morning. He's proud of himself. So I'm a little worried.
Gets that from his mom, huh?
Yeah. No, he actually, I said, you're following in your great-grandfather's footsteps. My dad's biological dad. Yeah.
That's right.
Spent time in Leavenworth.
He stole a lot from
I have
museums
no
as well.
idea. I don't know. I don't think it was museums. I think it was people. So,
Well, thanks for having me. Happy Memorial Day weekend. We'll be
Yeah.
around along with all the other people that don't have cabins.
Right.
We'll know exactly who doesn't have cabins on Sunday morning. They'll be here.
yeah.
Weather should be good all weekend.
We're going to plant a garden. Try to get that done.
One thing I've always done with the
Sounds
kids,
exhilarating.
I shouldn't say always, but ever since we moved back to Minnesota,
Go down to the
Memorial Day, me and the kids, Jordan usually joins us, but a couple years she couldn't. But go to the War Memorial here, the Veterans Memorial in Rogers, and
and you go to Dairy Queen.
we usually take ice cream.
I was gonna say, I know it's ice cream.
We
but
usually eat ice cream. What better way to celebrate your freedom than to have ice cream in the park? But
That's right.
really, just to pay our
No, that's good.
tribute to the guys. I mean, have you
it's
stopped
good.
there?
No.
There are
for
a
your
lot of
kids,
names on
too,
that
to
wall.
see
For Rogers is a relatively small town. There's a lot of names on that wall going back to
We should do that.
yeah.
Because I don't even know if it's just like a day off. You don't really think about why you're having the day.
Asher will be marching with some veterans in Delano. They start at the Legion and they go to like the
Oh, with his,
Central Park
Air
with
Force group?
Civil Air Patrol. They're in their dress,
blues,
full dress,
whites.
blues. I don't know. I always thought they were called dress blues, but I think the shirt's white. They have blue slacks.
There you
Anyway, and they're marching with some veterans, and then they go to the park, and there's some ceremony and a 21 gun salute and something else. I don't know.
That's on
Yeah.
Monday.
Monday, like 10 or 11 in the morning.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, man.
We'll
Always.
see you this weekend. Good luck tonight.
I'll be at the cabin. Just kidding.
No, I'll be here. Yeah, I'll be here this weekend.
Hey, Mike, let's wrap it up. Oh,
You want to wrap it up?
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know. What else? I don't know what else you guys talked about.
We just Schoolmeisters was on here for a little bit.
Yeah, he
sharing.
told me. He said he walked out here. He thought you guys were just hanging out. And then
No, we were streaming. He kind of shared,
Yeah.
gave a little bit of preview for his sermon.
Sweet.
Yeah, I don't know. Otherwise, how are you doing?
Me? I'm good.
Yeah, you good?
Yeah.
You been
Yeah.
running lately?
Only like 2 times last week, and I haven't gone yet this week.
Yeah.
There's been really no good time this week to go in the evening. So
I was on
I need
vacation
to get
last
back
week,
on it.
and I didn't ride my bike until Friday because I was up north.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't even try to get on the treadmill.
get
up
on
there.
vacation.
I was
Yeah.
on vacation. Yeah, and my bike is still on the trainer, and I keep hesitating about taking it off the trainer because I feel like I'm actually more productive riding it on the trainer than I am on the road or on a trail.
You can't. I mean, there's less excuses, right? You're like, it's right there.
So accessible.
I don't have to
Right.
like get outside, and it's
Yep.
it's too hot or it's rainy or
Yep.
yeah.
I don't know.
I found enough excuses for the treadmill to not do the treadmill. So. No, I need to get back into just the regular habit, but we've been really busy, just running around everywhere every night. So it's just been hard to find that
Right.
good
Busy time of
natural
year.
rhythm. Yeah.
Like our small group is not meeting tonight because we have two family groups that are not going to be able to be
Yeah.
there, and so I think I'm going to go fishing with Rubel.
Nice.
Yep. I don't know if I told anybody in the small group that yet, but
Yeah.
that's what I'm going to probably be doing.
Yeah. Asher and Jordan are done. Today was their last day of school. Half day.
Wow. Half
They
day,
had
so they're
day. Not yet. Asher's been done, but he has to wait. Jordan has to be there till 1:30, and so she's heading home for summer vacation in 15 minutes.
Wow.
Well, Asher is. They have a work day tomorrow still. Wrap things up, and then she has to do some things in her classroom. But you know, as far as school
but now
goes,
it means you can hang out a little bit more.
yeah, and it also means that some of the honestly, baseball, although we love it and we love Asher's playing, that's been the hardest thing because
And baseball's done tonight. Yep.
Yeah, because I leave here and I head that way to help coach. Jordan leaves right after school to come this way so she could be off or here in time for when Riley gets off school. We've been really a huge blessing for us this year, the Olmsted family. I don't know if you know the Olmsteds. Renee's been picking up Evan several days a week.
Cool.
From school, from the middle school, when she's picking her kids up and dropping them off at home, and that's been huge. We've just been running around, and then by the time Asher and I get home from baseball, it's like get dinner going. There's other activities. Seems like every night. So it's just been a busy season, and we're gonna still be busy because Jordan and Riley are getting ready to start play rehearsals and practice. They're doing the Bunts backyard play this year.
Okay.
I can't remember what play it is. What musical? I know it. I just can't think of the name because I've never seen it. It'll come to me. It's one St. Michael did maybe in the fall, because Hannah Pfeiffer was in it. And I can't think of the name of the stinking show.
I wouldn't know. I don't
I was
know
hoping
either.
you would just throw it out there.
Nope.
Hey, Mom.
Yep.
Good afternoon from Texas.
Hey, Mom.
Here's something funny. This is not funny. My mom's, who's been is superwoman, still is, but her hearing's starting to go a little bit. So it's bothered her enough that she's been getting, she went to get fitted for hearing aids the other day at Costco. And the doctor, what kind of doctor is that? Whoever it is, the tech, whoever said that her type of hearing loss, the tones, that type of hearing loss, she has a hard time hearing women and girls.
Weird.
So probably more
'Cause
like
it's a certain
higher
frequency?
I guess.
Okay.
And I said, how do I sign up for that type of hearing loss?
Well, it might be hereditary.
And my sisters told me that was a good one. That was like your best dad joke. That it sounded so much like Don Tizer. So anyway,
I got Dan Kamen.
yeah,
He's coming over here to pick something up in about 15 minutes. So.
sweet.
So let's
Paula Wold.
wrap this up. Hey, Paula. Hope you're doing well.
Paula, who I've never ever met in person.
Really?
No, because she was already
They had
not
left
coming.
already before?
No, Steve was here Saturday
okay.
nights. I know Steve.
Okay.
It was awesome, but I think Paula just with health or something wasn't always in the building here. And then they moved back to Minnesota, but always online. So nice to. I was gonna say nice to see you, but only she could see me. So that's weird. Nice to see me.
Tell
Paula.
Steve I said hi too.
Yeah, I miss Steve. He was awesome. He was your every Saturday night sound guy.
Yeah.
Just
Mr. Reliable.
fixture right there in that sound booth.
Yep. And they came from Living Hope too.
Yeah, that's right. I
So
remember you
that's
saying that.
that's when I first met Paula and Steve. So long
Sweet.
time. So I've known them for 16 years. 15 years, something like that. I don't know. Do you know, Paula? Let's look at some Northridge stuff coming up. Kind of wrap things
A couple of big ones.
Yeah.
Just keep it to those.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of details within those things.
Yeah.
So
You lead it. What do you want to talk about, Mister?
the most the one coming up the most soonest, I can say that. Celebration Sunday,
Yeah.
June 4th. And it's
That's next Saturday. A week
not
and a
this
half.
Sunday, but the week after that.
Sunday. I said Saturday. Yeah, it's Sunday.
Crazy that it's going to be June soon. And
I've been saying that every month. It's already May.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So we have our normal services at 9 and 10:30. During those services, we're going to do some worship. Ben will preach just a little bit, but we're going to do what we do every year. If you've never been around for Celebration Sunday in the past, it's your first Sunday, then give you a little preview. A lot of recognition of people, of kids, things that happened throughout this last year, things that we want to remember and celebrate, people we want to thank and acknowledge for what they've done and the difference that they've meant. And we're going to actually have an open mic time for you to share those things. So if you're interested in sharing, because you have somebody in mind that you'd like to thank, would love for you to kind of be ready to share, have something, organized in your head. You can write it out and just read it. If you have one sheet of paper and you just type it out or write it out, it usually takes like a minute and a half or so to read. That's usually the best and cleanest way to do it.
It's also nice because you don't forget what you want to say.
Right.
Sometimes if you're not used to talking, you grab a mic and
Right.
you're looking around, there's people, you
Yep.
just kind of
And
forget.
we want to make sure there's enough time for everybody
Yeah.
because we know that there are so many people that deserve thanks and gratitude.
Yeah.
Not just, we'd love for you to think beyond like the pastoral team.
Yes.
Like, Ben and Greg, myself, and Doug, and whoever else. We know you appreciate. We get our moment in October, but there are hundreds of volunteers that give their time for free throughout the year, whether you work with kids or with youth or connections team, prayer team, events team, all sorts of different men's and women's ministry, just even people that you come across on the weekends. There are so many people that deserve a moment of your gratitude. So would love for you to think about that, and you'll have a chance to share that in the service. After the 10:30 service, we're going to be heading out to BB Lake. Is it Lake BB? BB Lake?
I think it's BB Lake, but
BB Lake.
I hear both, so who knows? BB Lake, Lake BB.
At a place called Land of Promise, and this is where we were last year. And it's just going to be our group.
The address says Buffalo, but it's like just
It's
right
just
outside,
right outside St. Michael.
Yeah.
It's from here. It's
Yeah.
like 17 minutes.
Yeah.
We're going to be food, hangout, and then there's going to be baptism in the lake. And if you're interested in being baptized, come talk to one of the pastors. We'd love to talk to you. If you've never expressed your faith through the act of baptism, we'd love for you to do that this June. And when it comes to food, we know we've already communicated something, but we've kind of peeled that back. We're changing things. And you're going to hear this big old cancellation of the previous.
Just a small cancellation.
It is. But instead of inviting you to bring a side dish, we're going to take care of all the side dish.
Yep.
We're going to take care of the main course and the side dish, and we're asking people to bring desserts.
Bring a dessert to share
Yep.
if you wish.
Yep. And it could be something homemade, or it could be something that you just pick up on the way. It's up to you. But bring a dessert to share. And beyond water, if you want to bring something to drink, no alcoholic beverages, obviously, but if you want to bring soda or whatever else, vitamin water, whatever else, other than water, lemonade, iced tea.
We have lots of choices
There's
for
a lot
beverages.
of choices, yeah. We'll have water there.
We'll have water. It'll be cold.
But anything else that you want to have on hand? Like I like drinking this vitamin water stuff. This is regular water, but usually has vitamin water. Anyway, so dessert. Don't bring a side dish. We'll have all that. Bring
We
a
will
dessert.
have potato salad, broccoli salad,
Chips,
and fruit. So
fruit salad.
if you have like dietary limitations, like you might want to think about your own side just to be
Right.
sure, for maybe just you and your family. But yeah, otherwise there's gonna be plenty of food.
Yep. So that's celebration weekend. If you have any questions about that, want to get baptized, get in touch with us. Office at nrf.life, or you can just email me or Greg directly, ands at nrf.life, or greggt at nrf.life, GREGGT.
Yep. Greg GT.
Yep, GT. What's the other big one, Greg?
I was trying to fix something on the website. That's why I'm.
The other
fiddling
big
around
thing
here,
is
but no,
VBS.
I was getting there.
Oh, talk about
Just
VBS,
explaining
Greg.
what I was doing over here.
Explaining.
VBS is going to be stellar. It's going to be stellar. That's the theme.
Literally and
Literally.
figuratively.
It's going to be awesome. It's always awesome. We always pack in like tons of kids in here. June 19th through 23rd. Registration's open. You could register now. But we got elementary VBS from 9 to noon. And then we also do a preschool age VBS for ages 3 to just going to be entering kindergarten. That's from 10 a.m. to noon. So it starts a little bit later. But lots of fun. $10 a kid, but if finances are an issue and that's a stumbling block, please register. We'll figure that part out. But that really just covers costs anyway.
Right.
Probably barely.
You
But-
can still register.
just register.
The fee will be waived if you can't.
But yeah, it's always so much fun. It's always so active in this building for the whole week. And kids just have a blast. I think adults have just as much fun as kids do, those who are serving. And obviously we have tons of needs there for volunteering, for jumping in and being a part of that. And even if you think like, oh, I can't, sit with a group of kids and teach them a Bible lesson, like you don't necessarily have to do that. In fact, there's a lot of things you can do that are like just more serving roles, like outside, kind of, not literally outside, but, along the perimeter of the whole activity of like, there's a team in the kitchen preparing snacks. There's a team that helps, clean up before and after. There's a team that does registration and check-in in the mornings.
Come help me with the tech booth.
Yeah, tech stuff. Good week if you want to learn some of that tech stuff. Probably good week because we use that down in the youth room too. We have sound and computer needs, running slides and stuff. So maybe that's something you've thought about doing and jumping in. That's a good week to kind of learn some of it.
Yep.
So I don't know. There's lots to be said. Go on the events page on the website. I think we covered the main things, but the biggest thing is this is a huge outreach for us every year for kids in our community. And bottom line is we just want every child and therefore like adult and parent who are dropping them off. And we want that week to be a week where the gospel is clear and presented clearly and kids understand it. And we have children and adults who are making the decision to accept what Jesus has done for them and follow him with their lives. So it's always an awesome week. It's always a lot of fun. It's a lot of work. Our kids team is amazing and do a great job and sure to be stellar.
If you go to the website, click on events, you'll see the image for VBS Stellar. It doesn't say VBS, it just says Stellar. You click on that, brings you to a page where you can register either preschool, elementary, or if you want to serve, there's links right there for you. If you have questions, you can get in touch with Courtney or Jackie about that. And if you want to help but you don't know what area, get in touch with them, and they would love to talk to you and help you figure out what area would be the best for you to serve in. And then also, if you feel the need to give to VBS as a whole, there's a link there that you can click to just donate. give. I don't know if we ever use the word donate, but if you'd like to donate towards the cost of VBS supplies, there's a link there on our give menu.
Yeah.
That's kind of the biggest things.
Got annual meeting coming up.
Annual
the
meeting.
following Sunday. Well,
Is that on
VBS
Father's?
is later, but yeah, June 11th. Is that Father's Day?
No, I think Father's Day is a week after.
I don't know when Father. No one cares about Father's Day like they do Mother's Day. Anyway, the annual meeting is June 11th, Sunday.
June 18th is Father's Day.
At noon, following the 10:30 service. Anyone's welcome. Only members can vote.
Yep.
It's our usual, like, only one vote per year. It's basically
For new incoming overseers.
incoming overseers or
And the budget.
So vote on the new budget. That's always fun. I mean, let's be honest. Church meetings are usually awful.
Not
Like-
ours.
Like business meetings, no, it's fun.
They're awful because they're
Right.
too long.
and it's just too much.
And ours are maybe an hour max.
We eat.
We
We
get
get
down
moving.
to business.
Literally get down to business. Like,
Yep.
get up. Whoever's presenting gets
They
up
give a
front.
quick-
Ben gives a good summary usually, and the
Yep,
overview
summary of the
where
previous year.
where we're
We-
going,
we-
vision.
Introduce some new members.
Yep.
And then we give a vision for the upcoming year, which is sort of the reason behind the budget that we're proposing.
Yeah.
And then we vote, and then it's done.
Yeah. So Rick Warren has a famous quote concerning church budgets, and what I love is like what you just said. Ben gives like the vision for the year to come, which is the reason for the budget is like the shoe doesn't tell the foot what size it is. That's what he always said. A shoe doesn't tell your foot what size it is.
Yeah.
Like the shoe needs to fit.
That
the
sounds
foot,
like a
so-
Rick Warren quote.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It's got to be like catchy, and I'm surprised it didn't rhyme or have alliteration or whatever. Annual meeting, noon, June 11th. Gonna be fun. There is childcare for that, by the way. If
Yep.
you want childcare, I don't know if you
Yep.
said that, but
And even if they're, old for childcare, the kids can just come
Yeah,
and hang
they can
out.
hang.
They get food too.
Mm-hmm.
The food is complimentary.
food for the family,
Yep.
everybody, just sandwich stuff. So just your basic lunch fare.
I think Dan's here, so we should sign off.
Dan's here.
Dan
Oh.
Kamen.
Yeah, you already said that.
Yep.
I was thinking Dan Munson.
Kamen?
He's on vacation.
Kaman
We got Ben and Dan on vacation.
Yep.
This week, and Brax.
and Brax. Yep.
Huh. Okay.
Anything else, Greg?
Not a thing. It's 1:30. My wife is done with her school year and probably on her way home. So she's probably happy, but even happier is Asher. Summer vacation. What's better than the last day of school when you're a kid?
Oh,
It's like your whole
awesome.
life is I'm
Yeah.
free.
yep.
I got months ahead of me.
just like you got out of jail.
School's never coming back.
So
That's the greatest day.
Yeah.
I would argue it's probably better than Christmas. I'm going to drag this on. Keep going. No, anyway. All right. Goodbye, Greg.
all right. Hope you're doing well. Hope to see you this weekend. If you need anything, just let us know. Office at nrf.live for